Well, good morning. I heard two of you. I know I'm in a European country, but good morning.
Good morning.
Try that again, yes. I'll spare you what response level I expect when I preach in an African-American church. But anyway, it's good to be with you all again and to share with you. My topic this morning is storytelling through photography. And in keeping with some of the presentations we've had, particularly about storytelling and the modern, the post-millennial, modernist, fluid narrative, whatever generation that we're in, I'm going to tell you a story, and then if necessary, I may actually say something at the end about how it might apply, but perhaps you'll have already reached those conclusions by the time we get there. The title of my presentation is Deianira, Storytelling Through Photography. My story begins this way. I was casting about for something to do during the summer of 2013. Our youth pastor at our church, Mark Reams, and a couple of his leaders, his youth leaders, were going to Nicaragua to look at various possible mission trip sites. And being the resourceful person that I am, I invited myself to go along. Have you ever done that? You just invite yourself to go along, and my angle was that they needed a photographer, because they were going to be busy, going to different places, talking to different people. They wouldn't be able to take pictures and talk and interview and so forth at the same time. I would be able to take pictures for them. They could use them when they came back to promote their mission trip. Not knowing which organization they were going to work with or location, they would need photos of everything, right? Makes sense, of course. And so that's how I got myself on this trip. I paid my way, so it wasn't like I was a burden to anyone in that way. We went for a couple of days. We flew to Managua, which is a short flight from Florida, and arrived there, and we went to several locations. First in Managua proper, and then later in southern Nicaragua. The first location we went to was a school by the name of Centro Escolar, an organization called LifeLink International. And I took a number of pictures, we interviewed, we talked with the organizers, we looked at the school, so forth. Then the next day, we traveled down to southern Nicaragua, looked at a couple of locations there, next to the ocean. I should mention that our youth pastor is an avid surfer. Needless to say, when we returned, lo and behold, he selected the location by the ocean. That seemed like a good thought for a mission trip. And that was the end of the project as far as I was concerned. I was out cycling one morning a few weeks later, and I got to thinking, I really liked that school that we went to look at. Now, I wasn't there to plan a mission trip. I was just there to take pictures of the project or the potential project. And I got to thinking, I really like that school, though. I wonder if I could, I'll call them up, I'll contact them, and I'll see if perhaps I could just go there myself. I enjoy photography. I could just go there myself and offer my services, just for a couple of days, take pictures of the students, the activities, different things, and they could use that as part of their promotional material, their website, so forth. And I would just do this, as my own sort of personal mission trip. You see, as a web church pastor, I don't have a ministry group the same way that other areas often do. For example, children's ministry, or families ministry, or youth ministry, or young adult ministry, women's ministry, men's ministry. There's obvious kind of groups of people that are connected with those ministries. I deal with those who attend our church online, and they're not like physically in our building. So who is my group? What is my group, a ministry group? So I called them up, and I spoke to them and I said, would you be interested in having me come down for a few days and take some pictures? Just wanted to do this on my own. And their response was, we are so glad you called. We just tried putting together a yearbook for our school. And this is the director, Wayne, speaking, said, I used my iPhone to do it. And it was horrible. I would take 100 photos or pictures of 100 students. They have 320. And I would have to then download them, and the white balance would be off, and there all be different kind of, positions, poses, and whatnot. So the pictures, I have to crop them and all these different kinds of things. And I finally said to my wife, we are never doing a yearbook again unless we get a professional to do them. And then you called. I was like, oh, okay, well, that's great. That sounds kind of almost like a God thing. That's great. And he said, but here's the thing. I want you to bring a team of people. I said, what? He says, yes, I want you to bring a group of people I said, well, what would we do? I want you to come and build us a yearbook. And I thought, well, that's interesting. Mission trips are usually or often can be to go and build something, right? You go build a building, a cafeteria, a dormitory, some sort of construction project. Or you do an evangelistic series, and it's a very planned out process, and it's something that serves a physical need. But I'd never heard of building a yearbook. I thought, well, that's interesting. He says, and we have a lot of other things that would be really great to do as well. And so we started dialoguing back and forth. And wouldn't you know it, I ended up with a photography mission trip. That's the first time I have done a photography mission trip. It's the first time they had a photography mission trip. But what we did was go and build a yearbook. We did a lot of other things as well. We left last August. I had a group of 14. In keeping with the fact that I am the online church pastor, a number of them were not physical members at Forest Lake in the sense that they live there. Some of them attend online. Some of them weren't even Adventist. Some of them weren't even Christian. But the photography part is what drew us all together. And so the group of us, 14 in total, flew to Managua in August, and we did a variety of projects. Let me tell you a little bit about the suburb that we were located in. It's a town by the name of Ciudad Sandino. It's the poorest suburb in Managua. Nicaragua is the second poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. The poorest is Haiti. So it's right up there with Haiti. The average education level for individual for men in the neighborhood where we worked is 4th grade. The average education level for a woman is 3rd grade. The average income for a family is less than $2 per day. Was that a pound something? That's the average income. It costs $38 a month to send a student to school there. That $38 a month covers tuition, uniform, 2 meals a day, and all of their books. $38 a month. Think about how much you spent at Costa, Starbucks, wherever you stop. $38 a month. When the family makes less than 2, you can see why every student there is sponsored. And so this was the environment that we went into. And here are some of the projects that we did. We created the yearbook. I mentioned that, right? We actually built a yearbook. We had a couple of people whose purpose was to design and lay out the entire yearbook while we were there. Now, it's not a yearbook like you might have here at Newbold College, large hardcover, lots of color photos, multiple hundred pages, whatever it might be. This was about a 30-page book. It was smaller, but it was in color, spiral bound, not hardbound. But it was the first yearbook they had ever had. We also shot all the student portraits, so we set up a couple of studios and lighting and backdrops, and so we shot all the student portraits, 320 students. We were there for 4 days. And then we also paid for, now this was what we paid for all of this as part of our project. We paid for the yearbook, we paid for the portraits. Every child got a portrait, like you see here, a portrait package with the little wallet size and larger size, 5x7 and so forth, photos. They had never received these before, ever. So this was a new thing. They'd never received that sort of thing. So they all got a packet of photos. Then we also did family photos. Every family, every child that's there lives within a block or so of the school. A few blocks, they all walk or take a very short bus ride to get there. And they all dressed up, as you can see. Their parents dressed them up in their finest, perhaps their only fine clothes, and brought them for their family photos. Again, very, very few of them have a family photo. Now in the US, in the UK, other places, we take pictures of our feet and our food. The sunrise, the sunset, the lack of the sunrise, the lack of a sunset, right? We take all of those things, right? And nobody there has a smartphone. I didn't see one the entire time. And at less than $2 a day, you can imagine why. It's just not a priority. So the photography itself was like, they have seen pictures being taken, but to have them in their hands, to hold them. When you go into their homes, they will have a couple of pictures on the wall, usually very poorly shot, photoshopped or something, very blurry, but in the fanciest frame that they can afford, gold, painted, under glass, and they will bring this out, this prized photo, and they'll show you, this is my child. They have one. in the entire house. And we covered them with photos by the time we were done. This was an amazing part of the project. They apparently in Nicaragua, the photographers there, if you could actually then go and actually see like a studio photographer, they take one picture, whether you're ready or not. That's the one you get. And so what we would find is we would pose these families, we'd put them together, we'd get them lined up, you stand here, look this way, that sort of thing. We would take the first shot and they would leave. They would get up to go. We're done, that's all you get, right? One. No, un momento, uno más, back. And we'd get them back down again, and we kept shooting, and they were just amazed because we'd pose them this way, and we'd pose them that way, and we'd this, and range the children in this direction and that direction, and it was an amazing experience for them. We also did something called an aspiration photo. Each child had written on a little whiteboard what it is that they want to be when they grow up. And then we took a photo of that. And then that will go to their sponsor, because their sponsor is helping them achieve that goal by sponsoring them every month. So we sent we took an aspiration photo in here. You can see this young girl, by the way, wants to be a Christian singer when she grows up. She certainly has the smile for it. Another project we did while we were there is what I called, I just sort of made this up, follow a student home, follow a child home. This was as much for the experience of the group members as it was for the children. What we would do is after school, we made arrangements for this. After school each day, I would send a small team, 2 to 3, with a child and photograph them home, following them home. And it documented the transition from the school to their home environment. And then in their home, doing their chores, homework, getting ready for supper, the family sitting around and talking, these sorts of things. And like I said, it was as much for the group members as it was for the students themselves. But my point was to not show poverty as something to feel bad about, but rather for my group members as well as for the students themselves, the family members themselves, to see themselves as people of value, regardless of income, to see them as people of pride, regardless of their circumstances. Because they are very happy people in many ways. Yes, they have challenges. Yes, they have shortages. But they were very happy people. And what you and I might look at as dirty and as impoverished and lacking, these children were happy. And these children had nothing. Every home was a dirt floor, 4 walls-ish, with various boards or pieces of tin nailed together, but it was the cleanest dirt you ever saw. It was well swept, well tended, was not full of rubbish or leaves or whatever you might say. And I literally have seen them sweeping the dirt. Well, you can see the boy in the background. He's got his broom ready to go. And then we also documented student life. They have a wonderful chapel service every week. And the kids, it's amazing to hear them sing. And this is during prayer time. We took a lot of photos of that. And then we also created for them a fundraising video. And I'll show that at the end of my presentation here. And again, photographing the children in their setting. The video was based on the song Kings and Queens by Audio Adrenaline. It's an American Christian group. And part of that theme is that each child can be a king or a queen in the presence of God. That's because they're a child of God. And so we made little crowns and photographed them in various settings. We shot the video as well. And then at the end, we produced that. And that became their fundraising video for LifeLink International there in Managua. So that's what we did. Now, let me kind of go to the highlight of the trip for me. When I came back in August, the first time I went, in 2013, I was immediately convicted I needed to sponsor a child at this organization. So I contacted them, I went online, I signed up, and I signed up to sponsor a child. I ended up being assigned a little girl, a pre-kinder, 4-year-old girl by the name of Ophelia. They sent me a photo of her. She had written a little letter, as best you can when you're 4, and I got all of this information, and I began sponsoring this child. Well, a couple of months later, I got a letter saying that Ophelia's family had moved away. They needed to go somewhere else for work. Father had to go someplace and work. And so I was going to be assigned a different child, a girl by the name of Deyanira. But they never sent me the welcome packet So I never got a photo of her. I never got any letters from her, anything like that. And, I'm busy. You know how it is. You have something that's kind of set up as an automatic payment or whatever, and you kind of forget about it. You get a letter once in a while saying thank you for your payment. But, I was like, oh, okay, well, that's fine. They're busy. And I'm going to be there in August anyway. So when I arrived in August, I knew that there was a little girl at the school somewhere that was my girl that I had sponsored, but I didn't know what she looked like. I'd never seen her before. And so on Thursday afternoon, the sponsorship coordinator came to me and said, would you like to see your little girl? Well, you have to understand, at first that sort of threw me off because I'm not a parent. And I have not had anyone ever walk up to me and say, would you like to see your little girl? I would imagine that's something you're told in the delivery room or something, right? I've not experienced this, but I'm assuming that's where you'd probably hear that for the first time. Would you like to meet your little girl? Well, I didn't know I had any little girls. and then, oh, yes, of course, the one I sponsor, yes, of course. And we had been busy, and I'd really kind of forgotten about it, and I knew she was out there somewhere, so they brought me into the auditorium, into the little quiet area. She took her out of class for a moment, and then my Spanish is very poor, and I'm sure hers is much better than mine. And so I had someone there to translate, and I started taking some pictures. Oh, let me take some pictures, show my wife, and so forth. And so, I took one with my cell phone. I thought, hold it, I have a, regular DSLR here. I should be taking some photos, big camera photos. So I started shooting some other pictures as well. And then I took this one. And I was, pretty impressed. I thought, wow, that came out really great. So I showed the director and his wife, who's the principal at the school, Wayne and Megan. I saw this picture. I said, wow, look at this. This came out great. I can't wait to put this, on the computer and play with it a bit or whatever and put it online and so forth. And I thought, this is a great shot. And they said, yeah, that is, and Megan started tearing up. She knows all the children by name. And they said, that is a great picture. We would love for you to come back and do that as the sponsorship photo for all of the students for next year. Their school year runs from March until November. So February, January is the beginning of their school year, and they know by then who's going to be in school and who is sponsored and who needs sponsors and so forth. And they said, can you come back and take 368 more Dionera pictures? And so I did. I just got back last week. I was there last week in Nicaragua. And on Thursday, I flew back. And I took 368 Dionera photos. Here are a few of them. I met these two. They're new little twins, 4 years old, as precocious as they look. And I also took class photos, again, started the school year, put the whole class together with the teachers, and so forth. And I took all of these photos. And it was an amazing experience. I took not only 368 sitting down photos, but then I had them standing up as well. So the idea is they're standing up next to a doorway, and then over time, you do that each year, you can see how much they've grown, because they're up against that doorway. So you always just shoot them each year in the doorway. Now, photography friends of mine have said, wow, that is really great. What kind of equipment are you using? What kind of camera do you have? What kind of setup, what lighting and all that kind of, well, here's my setup. There you go. Me sitting in a chair. My photography advisors behind me. They love looking at the outcome. There's about 3 or 4 of them helping me there. And then each child. I just parked them on the step because they're familiar with those steps. It's in their auditorium. Then I had them stand in the doorway where you can see the light coming in and shot them there as well. And it still is an incredible experience for me. So my question is, what story will you tell? What story are you going to tell? This was a little girl in the streets there of Ciudad Sandino who was sitting out with her mother. There was 2 women sitting there with their children. This is what they do. They just sit in the street and visit. And she had grabbed the mother's hat, sombrero, And she was just playing, and she got out in the street, she saw me with the camera, and she started giggling and laughing. That's a purely spontaneous shot. I couldn't set that up if I tried. So what story are you going to tell? What need are you going to find and illustrate it? What need are you going to find? How are you going to use your technical skill to benefit others? How are you going to do that? You know, many times technical skills are seen as something helpful for making a church service happen, but what are you going to do to help others with it? What can you do? How are you going to involve the techie types in doing something of positive value? Now, sure, producing a church service, making online streaming, producing a promotional video, whatever it might be, that certainly has value. But, there are other things that you should be doing with it as well. Maybe a photography mission trip. Maybe there's a need in your community that could be brought to attention through some good video photography work. What is it? It doesn't have to be in another country, although it could. What story are you going to tell? All right, I have the video for you. This is the video that we produced. It's a promotional video for them. So we'll see if hopefully this will work fine.